How are you today? You? I'm okay. Today, we are going to talk and demonstrate and do a tessellation in the style of M.C. Escher. Remember we talked about M.C. Escher in class? Well, today we're going to make one. Hang on. This is going to be interesting. Okay, be back in a minute. Bye. And we are back. So, I'm going to show you how to make a tessellation much like those made by M.C. Escher. We talked about this in class. If you weren't in class, this is what I mean. An M.C. Escher tessellation. And to do this, I think probably the best thing for us to do is to make a template. But how do we do that? I'm going to show you. Watch. Starting, these are some tools we're going to use in a minute. Tape, scissors, pen. But the big deal is this index card. You'll see an index card is kind of thick paper. It's still paper. It's still paper, but it's thick. And we want it to be thick to draw with, but we also don't want it to be so thick that it's hard to cut with scissors. And I know that doesn't make sense yet, but it will. So, first thing we'll do is we'll have to trim it up. Now, I'm just choosing to make my little pieces of paper to be cut up in sizes of 2 inches by 3 inches, but that's not a requirement. I want it to be a rectangle, but it doesn't have to be a specific size of rectangle. It could be a little smaller, it could be a lot bigger, depending on the size of your paper. But I'm thinking that this would be nice for the size of paper that we're going to work with, okay? Which, when we make our actual, whoa, that's big, yeah. But in a minute, you'll see why this size is about right. So, in this case, it was 2 inches by 3 inches. That doesn't mean that it couldn't be 3 centimeters by 4 centimeters. It could be any size that you like. Okay, so hang on and I'm going to show you what to do. Hey, I'm back. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make 2 sort of random lines. These lines, when you look at M.C. Escher's work, you think to yourself, well, I have to be able to make a horse. No, or a fish or a duck. M.C. Escher was really good at what he did. And we want to be able to do what he did approximately. Almost what he did. I mean, you're in school. You don't know exactly all the ins and outs of graphic arts yet. But the point I'm trying to make is we're going to make it a little more simplified than M.C. Escher would have done. So, what we're going to do first is we are going to make a random line. And I want to point out that it's very important to make your line inside of the corners. See the corner here and here? I'm going to make my random line at the top. Well, I'm going to write that top. I'm going to make my first random line at the top. And notice how my line is going to be inside of the corners. Now, I didn't make any shape. It's just something that just came out of it. I don't know what it is, right? But the other thing I want to find is the front. here's the front. Okay? And I'm going to make another random line at the front. So I'm still inside of my corners. Notice how my line doesn't go over. If you go over the corners, it'll still work, but it's going to be more difficult for you. And I'll show you why in a minute. Anyway, we've got these two lines now at the top and at the front. Okay? Okay. Hang on. La, 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 la. Okay. So now all I'm going to do is cut this out. And it's good that I used a marker because I have a very thick line. So as long as I'm cutting in that line, I'll be okay. Now, another thing that's important for you to think about is how neat that you're cutting. Because if you make a messy cut, it's going to be very difficult to draw over. I know that doesn't make sense now because we're cutting and trying to relate that to drawing, but it's just very simple. Try to cut neatly. And when you do, it'll pay off in the end. I promise it will. Good. So there are my top pieces cut off, right? I'll set that over there. We're going to need that. Don't throw it away. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to cut my front out. And remember, this is easier to do because I have one thickness of cardstock paper. It's a little thicker than regular paper. That's important because we want to draw along the edge of it. But it's still thin enough that you can cut it neatly with scissors. See, that's a very neat cut, right? So I'm going to put this over here beside the front, and I'm going to put this up here beside the top, because in a moment, those things are going to be opposite of each other. You'll see what I mean. Wait a minute. Ta-da! Okay. So now that we've cut these out, we want to take the part from the top and move it down to the bottom. Now, students, it's important to remember that when you do this, many of you will do a number like that. You'll flip it. And if you do, it won't work. And that's why these lines on the back are important. Because if you see the lines, you've messed up. So no lines. It's clear on that side. And then I'm going to do my very best to make it neatly to the side and kind of measure it. Yeah, that's about where it came out right there. That space there is about the same as that space there. See? Now that I have that, I want to tape it on. Now, it's important that when you tape, you try to do a neat job, right? That if you just slap the tape on there, it's going to be a problem. One thing that happens sometimes is that the part will slip under the paper, and you don't want that. You want it to sit side to side like that. Ooh. I had it right. There we go. That's pretty good right about there. So I want to take my piece of tape and stick it on. Now, children or students, it's really important not to allow the tape to go over the edge of your work. Meaning that if I tape it like this and that tape's hanging over the edge, it's going to be very hard to deal with later. Flip it over, and maybe I'll put some tape on the other side. Now, remember, I went from the top to the bottom. I did not put it anywhere else. If you put the bottom on the back, you're going to be disappointed with your results. So now that's well taped on there. And it's almost exactly opposite. Now, you see that little crack I've got right there? It's kind of a little crack right there. And I don't really want that. So I'm going to tear off just a tiny piece of tape. It's so small. But I want to seal that off if I can, as neatly as I can. And see, I didn't get any on the edges of it's off the edge. That's important. You don't want any tape hanging over the edge. So that's pretty good. Now I went from the top to the bottom. What do you think I should do for the front? I should go from the front to the back. Something like that. I think so. Right about there. I believe that's it. Yes, I do. So, we have that. Take off another piece of tape, maybe. A little wrinkly there. And remember, I'm trying the best I can to make this as even with that as I can. And, you know, if it's not exact, don't worry. It's not going to be a big thing, but you want it to be as close as you can make it, because it's important that it fits together later. There's a little bit of tape there. Not as much as I want, but it's stuck together. Now I'll take a little bitty tiny piece. Look how small it is. It's very tiny. Woo. And I'm going to put it there. And another little tiny piece. And I'm going to put it here. And it means that this thing's going to be fairly well constructed. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So this thing won't move around now. That's on there pretty well. And you can also see the four corners. This will be important later for two reasons. You'll see. I'll see you in a minute. It's going to be good. Ta-da! Here I am again. Okay. Now we start applying the template to the paper. I know you don't know exactly what I mean yet, but you will. And we're going to take this pencil. Notice that it's got a fairly sharp point on it. And I'm going to take my template, and remember, I can see the flat edges of my corners. See the flat edges? See them? And I'm going to apply them to the paper so that that corner is in the corner of the paper. Exactly. And this one here touches the edge of the paper. And this one, it touches the top of the paper, so that it's perfectly squared into the paper. Then I take my pencil and I trace around it. And I take my time to do a neat job. If you make sloppy lines, this will not fit together later. So you got to take your time and make a nice, neat line that fits around your template. So I'm taking my time. I'm going around here. And I'm fitting it together. That. Here I'm going to make this line. I can't let my template move. If my template moves, then the whole thing is thrown off. But I'm making my shapes. And the interesting thing about this is that once I get this one done, I'll never have to draw four sides again. That's the only time I have to draw four sides. What do you mean? Well, When I take this off, watch, I take it off, there's the shape of the object that I made. But watch this. This is the cool part. Ah! You take this, you fit it here. See how it's fitting right inside? It matches. Look, see the corner? It mates perfectly to it. Still, I want this to touch down here, right on the edge of the paper. But it mates. It fits like the piece of a puzzle. And I trace around that one. I go carefully and slowly. It's easy to think that this whole idea that we're doing here is so easy that you can do it quickly. And I guess if you were really a talented artist who had a perfect eye, then you could do this quickly. But that's not me. Nope, I need to take my time and do a neat job. But notice now, I don't have to draw that side. Why? Because I drew it on the last one. See how they fit together? Oh man, I wonder if they'll fit together on this side. Let's see. I'm going to take it. I'm going to fit it right. Oh, look at that. It fit right inside. And notice how my corner fit inside the corner. And this one is touching at the top. Well, let's see what happens. Here, I'm going to draw this side. And now I'm going to draw this side. Woo. It's going to go around. I'm going to do a neat job. And ta-da! It fits together perfectly. I drew 3 sides that time. I wonder if the next one I can get away with only drawing 2 sides. Wait, let's see. I'm going to take my... Oh, look. See the shape? Oh, look at that. It fits right in there. Look at that. That's incredible. Now, I'm just going to draw this side. Ooh, I'm getting in too much of a hurry. I need to slow down. But as I get there, drawing my neat lines, I only have to draw around 2 of the edges, the bottom and the back. And look, it fits together. And I think you can probably see that the next thing I need to do is populate the entire page that way, which is what I'm going to do next. I'll be back in a minute. Bye. This is fun. I mean, I've taken a long time, and I've taken my time to make a neat job, but now it's to the point where I'm only having to draw 2 sides most of the time. See how that's not even exactly fitting on the end right there. It kind of cuts off, but that's okay. Just shows that this end fits there. Oh yeah. Let's keep going. Yeah, so a couple of things to think about. If you're really, really neat and you really try to make it as perfect as you can, this will all fit together. But if your template is off a little bit, if if you're a little messy with that, or you're a little messy with your lines, and you try to fit it together later, what's going to happen is the template will start to cascade, meaning that it'll be off a little bit here, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and a little bit more, and it'll appear like the whole thing is falling, or falling apart, or unraveling, I guess maybe is a good word. So, yeah, you want to think about that as you're doing it. Try to make it as neat as you can. You hear teachers say that all the time, neatness counts. But in this case, it really didn't. Wait a second. I'm going to make 2 of them by making one line. Look at that, one line. Look at that. Whoa! Hey, that's incredible! Wow! Okay, now that I've done, you can see it all. Maybe I'll zoom out a little bit. Zoom out. Oh, yeah, that's better. So the whole thing's covered now. And, I've done it all with just this one template. So I think the next thing I need to do is outline it. What do you think? I'm going to outline it now, okay? I'll be back in a minute. This was fun. I spent a lot of time just sort of taking my time and making my lines very smooth and very neat. And before long, I've got something looking pretty good, I think. I think it looks good. I don't know what you think. You may think, I don't know, Sean, teacher. But I think anybody could look at this and sort of see the potential for making something pretty cool. Yeah, like that. Now, one interesting thing I want to point out to you, I want to put my pen away, is that no matter how careful I am, no matter how precise my lines are, I'm going to make a few little, see that mistake right there? Let me zoom it in here. Zoom it in right there so you can see it. See that little bit of pencil line right there? It's not much, it's tiny, but it makes a difference. So what you want to do is now go through the thing and find all the little places that you may have missed a little bit and erase those sort of ugly pencil lines. See, there's a little one there. Maybe this one over here. Oh man, there's a lot right there. See that one? See that one right there? Oh, yeah, right there. See it? So I got to erase that stuff and clean it up. You want this whole thing to be very clean. And now that the ink is on the paper, the pencil lines don't matter anymore. So when you color it, or whatever you decide to do with it after this, those ugly sort of little pencil lines will be in the way. You don't want that. You want them to be clean. So let me zoom back out now. Yeah. So you want this whole sort of presentation to be very neat and clean. And there's not a lot of that stuff going on, but there's some. See that one there? Oh, wait a second. It's right there. Where's my eraser? There it is. Right there. See, I got to erase that and make it clean. And there may be smudges where I rubbed my hand against the paper, but for the most part, it's pretty clean. When I get through it all, there's a little mess right there. All right, maybe up here like that. Yeah. When I get through it all and clean it up, it's pretty impressive. Let me see if I can show you. I'll zoom it out here as soon as I clean off my little eraser shavings. Let me zoom it out. Wow. That's pretty incredible. Huh? Look at that. Now, what could I do from here? Well, I could cut things out with my scissors. Not everything, but randomly remove some things. I could make different colors. Red, black, red, black, red, black. I don't know. Green, blue, right? I could shade only with my pencil. Now that's going to be a lot of work, you guys. But if I had, you remember Sean teacher says 9 different shades of gray, you could shade these in or make different patterns inside. Now, I'm going to show you something else you can do in a minute. But keep in mind that you can imagine what your creativity, your individuality could bring to this by simply choosing whether to shade or color or make patterns or remove portions of it with your scissors. Not all of it, just maybe one random piece here or there. It makes it look like an unfinished puzzle. Do you understand? Do you see? Okay, so I want to show you one more thing in a minute. Hang on. Okay, so this is the last part of the video. I think you understand how to make a template. I think you understand how to, outline everything and insert it on the page. But there's still this problem that many of you are going to want to make yours look like MC Escher's work. And that, of course, is very difficult to do. But you also remember that I told you that it's very important to keep the corners of your work. So I'm going to take this, now this is the same 2 inches by 3 inches, remember? Same size template. But I'm going to fold it like this. And I've got to really work a lot towards the center. But I'm going to make 2 cuts like some eyes. They're going to be pretty small. They don't have to be big. 2 cuts like some eyes. Yeah? See, oh, those are eyes. And maybe I'll make 1 cut like a mouth. Now, I can be more complicated with this, but the important part is I want it to be kind of close to the center of my template. So I'm going to make like a mouth cut. It's going to be way over to one side like that. It kind of looks like, I don't know, maybe like a jack-o'-lantern or a pumpkin. So now I'll bring my work back in. And do you notice how I kept my corners before? Right? So if I've kept my corners, I can fit that in there and draw it inside. I don't have to, but I can. So maybe I would want to do something along these lines. Let's try it like this. Yeah, that looks a little better. So I'm going to do it like this. And I'll take my pencil. I may not like this, so I'm going to use my pencil for this. But I'll do this one here. And remember, I can color this in or give it lips or eyes in the middle later. But it's there, right? So watch. Then on this one, I flip it over. And I make it there. See how it's fitting into the corners? See, it'll be very exact. Oh, yeah. If that's there, then back and forth and back and forth. So that you can make these as many times as you want. And, if you wanted to give him eyes, teeth, whatever you wanted to do. Okay. I'm going to be very interested to see what you do. So, hold on. Get ready. You're going to make a tessellation now. See ya. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.